Hey folks, it's the Poor Sports Seattle podcast. This is Casey McLean, and we are back for another week. A pre-recorded episode because I'm going to try to release this at 5 o'clock today. Testing out to see if that works for any algorithmic purposes. Um, a lot to talk about. A lot of baseball to talk about. First off, I want to tell you I'm all over the Pacific Northwest. I posted a poster on my Instagram at Casey McLean Comedy. If you want to see where I'm performing all over the Pacific Northwest, it's going to be a lighter summer this year because I'm trying to spend some time with my family. So catch me while you can, where you can. Like I said, all over Washington State. I'm spanning large portions of the Washington State from the Kitsap Peninsula to Spokane, Washington. Very, very far on both sides. I want to start out with if this was PTI, we would they used to call this Happy Trails, right? There was a guy that was very inspirational. His story was very inspirational, and I'll get to that in a moment. This guy named Bobby Jenks, who was a pitcher that pitched for a bunch of different teams. Came up. He started his career with the Angels. Ends up spending time with the who did he spend time with? All told, he pitched for the White Sox. Came up with the White Sox, and then ends his career pitching for the Red Sox. Complicated guy, a guy who, he's the epitome of the Nuke Lelouch character in Bull Durham, that they said has a $1 million arm and a 5 cent head. Bobby Jenks was a complicated dude. And I remember reading an article in ESPN magazine in my high school library. This is how long ago it was. ESPN had a legit magazine. I'm desperately trying to find my mouse cursor right now. The article was called "Loaded Gun, Great Arm, but Jenks No Angel" by Tom Friend. And it details all these rumors of Jenks being he's an alcoholic, a drug addict, he's barely literate. There was rumors that he was a white supremacist, and many of these things were true. Many of them were not true. I'm going to read a portion of it. This article, I remember being pivotal in me realizing. I thought about this article all the time because it really highlighted the complexity of human beings in a way that at 17 years old I had not seen yet. And so I always followed Jenks' career very closely because he's this big, just a natural gifted dude on the baseball field. Kind of like in the way that you would, like a Josh Hamilton's another good example. John Daly, the golfer, is a great example of these guys that just have some innate ability that they don't have to work for. Guys like me, even in high school, I was grinding out playing time to get playing time in baseball. I was a decent athlete on the scale of all people in the world. I was a pretty good athlete, but on the scale of, scholar athletes who played at the varsity level, I was, middle of the road. And I thought about Bobby Jenks all the time because he's this dude that just had like mid 90s velocity, and at a time, by the way, when that meant something. Now mid 90s velocity is like everybody has that. The guy that could touch 100. So I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna read from the article, folks. This is like when you're in class. You guys ever do popcorn reading? It's risky for me to do this because I'm on very little sleep. I could really screw this up, and it could be very embarrassing. All right. It says, at an instructional league in the fall, Bobby was drunk in the hotel pool. He hurled a basketball at a teammate, and it skipped up and nearly hit a coach's baby. The Angels sent him home. That was the winter Bobby burned his pitching arm, even though he regrets it. Because of one, this is quoting Bobby Jenks, because of one dumbass night, I got scars the rest of my life, he said. It was a warning sign. I don't know if Bobby can go out and have an occasional drink without wanting to have 4 or 5. Said Big Rob. Big Rob is mentioned earlier in the story. The Angels weren't giving up. By the end of 2001, Bobby was promoted from Class A Cedar Rapids to Double A Arkansas. He didn't throw a fastball under 95 in a playoff win against Round Rock, including a 4-pitch sequence of 100, 100, 101, and 99. The Angels credited his progress to Bobby's shotgun marriage that year. In February 2001, he'd met Adele Romke at a Seattle hamburger joint, and 4 months later they were pregnant and married, in that order. Bobby had done what his father wouldn't do: commit. Adele was bright, 2 years older, middle class, and willing to take care of him. Bobby's kind of like having another kid, Adele says. Just a very complicated dude who ended up making it to the big leagues, spent multiple seasons in the big leagues. I don't know. I actually don't know what the post-career life for Bobby Jenks has been like, but what I do know is he died of stomach cancer, which I did not know that he had. I don't think it was private information. Like I said, I was not following the post-career Bobby Jenks story, and had moved to Portugal, I think maybe to treat another ailment that preceded his stomach cancer diagnosis. So I don't know if Bobby Jenks kept it together as a man, as a dad, all the virtues and all the purity spiraling we have to do with these guys now. But what I'm telling you is, complicated guy, troubled guy, who put it together for a stretch of baseball where he was one of the most electric pitchers in baseball. And a guy, by the way, if you pull up Bobby Jenks' stats, you can probably pull up some highlights that give you this information also. So his final year in the big leagues, he throws 15 and 2/3 innings for the Red Sox, 9.77 strikeouts per 9 innings, which, again, at the time, that was pretty good. 94.9 average fastball velocity, 7.47 walks per 9 innings. It's a profile that just would not. I don't know that he would. First off, I think there'd be so many mechanical advancements at this point that Bobby Jenks would be a different pitcher in the modern Major League Baseball, but just uber talented, the exact Nuke LaLoosh character. So, not to make it about me, not to make Bobby Jenks story about me, but I remember that being the first human interest piece that I was exposed to, where at the end of it you were not sure if you wanted to root for that person. I think at the end of the article you were rooting for Bobby Jenks, but it was like a photo finish. Do you know what I mean? And I thought that was incredibly interesting, an incredibly interesting story. It was cool to me that you could just track down a story like that. And it's what made me want to be a sports journalist. And I never got there. I studied journalism, never wanted I found out early on into studying journalism that I did not want to go through everything you had to become a newspaper columnist, or to become, frankly, even like a pro sports beat writer. So, but this I've always revered this article as one of the best articles I've ever read. And going back and reading parts of it today, it's just complicated, dude. So, rest in peace, Bobby Jenks. Let's see. We're fighting this. I got multiple screens, which is a problem. So the Mariners had, by the way, a fantastic weekend. They sweep the Pirates. The starting pitching staff gives up no runs the whole series. I think I wanted to say it was 24 innings. Oh man, it was it was a lot of innings and a lot of strikeouts. And doesn't it feel like the Mariners just never play the Pirates? So they do lose 2 or 3 to the Royals, which is frustrating. Good weekend though, sweep the Pirates, and their playoff odds are up to 73%. That's the state of the team at the moment. By the way, they split their series in Texas since we last put out a podcast. So 73% chance to make the playoffs. It's like a 10+% improvement over the last time. But there's a little bit of controversy because The Mariners had 4 players named to the All-Star team. Cal Raleigh was voted to be the starting catcher for the American League, as he should. Andres Munoz was voted to the team as one of the best closers in baseball, as he should have been. Brian Wu, by the way, Brian Wu has started a 2025 tradition for me, which is anytime I write a player off, I said Mitch Garver was done, and he started hitting. Donovan Solano, I said, was done. He started hitting. Just last week, I said that Jorge Polanco was done. He started hitting. Brian Wu, early in the season, was the first big declaration I made. I said, Brian Wu is not an ace. And Brian Wu has stepped it up. I haven't looked at the underlying metrics that much, but he's continued to pitch very well and arguably better than he was pitching before that. So, Brian Wu, deserving All-Star. And then to the surprise of some people, and I had a double take, I would say that I was surprised. Julio Rodriguez was voted to the All-Star team. And, I mean, Julio is Major League Baseball wants this guy to be a superstar. Obviously, the Mariners want him to be a superstar. He's a good-looking, young guy, does not get in trouble off the field, plays an exciting brand of baseball, is a tremendous fielder, plays a difficult position extremely well. Major League Baseball wants him to be everything that Mike Trout was, and maybe still is, still will be for a little while, for the Angels. It hasn't happened yet. So, was I surprised that Julio? I was surprised that Julio was voted to the All-Star team. Gun to my head, Julio Rodriguez does not deserve to be an All-Star this year. By the way, Cal Raleigh having an all-world season. I have this topic that I have in mind for Cal Raleigh, and then every time I think about recording it, he does something incredibly that changes, like continues to bump up his profile, and so we'll get to it soon. Do you care about All-Star appearances? Like, let's say Andres Munoz was an All-Star, was voted an All-Star, was picked as an All-Star a couple years ago, didn't pitch in the game. Brian Wu, likely will pitch. Cal Raleigh is starting, so he will play. Julio will probably play some innings. Do you care about that stuff anymore? Has Major League Baseball's All-Star game kind of is it shifting towards Pro Bowl? It's kind of like all the games are kind of moving that direction, in my opinion, which is NBA All-Star Game, unwatchable. I think Major League Baseball All-Star Game is virtually unwatchable. The Home Run Derby's fun. The three-point contest is fun. The dunk contest, though it's not as exciting as it was when James Naismith was still alive and dunks were controversial. I don't think Naismith was still alive, by the way. But, yes, it's not. But it's still more fun than the actual game. It's still watching guys put in max effort, at least. I don't care about the Major League All-Star Game, but what I will say is, Julio probably doesn't deserve to be there, but you should be happy as a Mariners fan he's there, I think. I looked it up today because I was trying to be as cynical as I could be. Like, put myself in the mind of the ultimate Julio cynic. Does he get any more money from the Mariners if he makes the All-Star team? And I don't know who pays the All-Star pools. I think they do get a little bit of money, but not significantly. There's no escalators or incentives in Julio's contract from what I could tell. Happy to be corrected if I'm wrong. I tried to find it, couldn't find it. So I can't even be mad from that perspective. It's like your team getting a ball strike call that they don't deserve. I understand. I'm not thrilled about it because I don't think he deserved it, but I'm not mad about it. We got lucky on this one. I did compile some Julio stats to make the case. So, according to Fangraphs, Julio is the 10th leading American League outfielder in wins above replacement. But he is the second best defender, and even StatCast has him at the 96th or 97th percentile in defensive value in the league. So, While I think that his bat has struggled and he's never really reached the next level with his bat. In fact, he's regressed for the last 3 years straight. So whatever that means, what it seems like is teams keep testing if he'll ever learn to lay off of outbreaking sliders, and he has not. His strikeout rate is down. His power is down. I believe his walk rate is down. It's hold on, I gotta text my wife. My wife is my wife's gonna be home in 15 minutes, so we gotta get through some topics. That's why we're pre-recording, folks. So I don't know if the move is to put my phone on. This is the challenge of having kids in school. My wife's a teacher. Everybody's home for the summer, and it really ends up just interfering with the shit that I want to do. I know no dads are getting a bunch of free time, but goddamn. 17th in home runs. One thing I will say about Julio, he has a 305 weighted on base average, and according to StatCast, he's been unlucky, which means he's hitting balls hard enough that he should have he has an expected weighted on base average of 331 and his actual on base average is 305. For context, I think Randy Arozarena is within 5 points of his expected weighted on base average, so Julio by the way, very tired. If I've called him Felix at any point, I've got because maybe I'm frazzled by my wife texting, and it shows up on my screen. That's the other problem. I'm frazzled by my wife texting, but did I call him Felix at any point? I hope not. Julio, not mad about him being. I don't understand the inclination of Mariners fans. Take the win. Take the whatever bias we've assigned to the sports media being in love with the East Coast. This is an example of it not bouncing that way. Take the win. So I think this is my last written down topic. In the last, I don't know, week? Is it the last? I think it's the last 8 games or something like that. Randy Arozarena has 6 home runs, and he's gone from a 123 WRC plus to a 134 WRC plus. He's hitting out of his mind right now. We'll pull up Arozarena real quick, his game log, because it should be pretty instructive of how great he's been. When the Mariners, I will say, like, I will give myself blame when it's due and credit when it's due a lot less freely. So from May 30th till now, no, June 30th till now. Come on now. Let's get us back to June 30th. We got to end on June 30th. What are we doing? So it's a little bit more than a week. Randy Arozarena has a 276 WRC plus, 6 home runs, 9 total hits, 25.9% strikeout rate, and 0 walks in that time. For by the way, good for a 1,038 slugging percentage. Arozarena has been hitting out of his mind. He's got flaws. He's a guy with flaws. The concerns about his fielding he's been a pretty bad fielder in Seattle. And I was a little bit bullish on him as a fielder because he's got athletic traits that make you believe he should be a good fielder. And he's a guy that I have to imagine there's like a pretty strict age divide on whether Randy Arozarena pisses you off or not. I had an uncle. He passed away, I think 2 years ago-ish now. God damn. Time moves. Flies, I don't know, but it keeps moving. He was, I would say, my mom's side of the family is like Kennedy Democrats, which I think is like I heard that term when I was working with a guy named Brett Ernst many years ago, and I think it's like a perfect description. They're Democrats, but they come from Spokane, working class, union people, etc. These are people for Spokane in the 1970s who were as progressive racially, I will say, as anybody in the world. My uncle would be frustrated, I believe. He never watched Randy Arozarena play as a Mariner. I don't think he would have liked. I think there's a lot of old white uncles that don't like Randy Arozarena and the bat flips and the demonstrative celebrations and the crazy colors that he wears and the outfits and the hair color and the just all the histrionics that come along with Randy Arozarena. And somehow, despite becoming an objectively old man, I'm getting old. I'm one of the people. I got to be on the second half. I got to be on the other side of median age in the world, right? Because the population's growing. I got to be in the upper half of oldest people in the world at this point. I've managed to allow myself to evolve, to enjoy these things that maybe when I played baseball and I had this false notion that I could at some point be a professional pitcher and I would want to be the Pedro Martinez type that would throw high and inside on guys that disrespected me and then have the pinpoint command to be able to use that brushback pitch as a setup pitch for a strikeout later and then stare that guy down despite him being significantly larger than me, knowing that I had a big-ass catcher named Jason Varitek or somebody like that could stand in between me and a big, roided-up slugger. A part of me that wanted to be an old-school baseball fan, that you play the game the right way. Do you remember many years ago when Dallas Braden, I think Alex Rodriguez ran across from first base to third base and didn't, I don't know if it was, I don't remember the scenario, but Dallas Braden barked at him and it started this big thing and got into this discussion of unwritten rules and everybody. First off, I mean, I got exhausted by the unwritten rules thing because just write the rules down then. Just write a goddamn etiquette book. We need a finishing school for baseball players. Got to be balancing books on our heads and shit. Relax the rules, please. I feel the same way about golf, by the way. Yeah, let the guys wear t-shirts. Who gives a shit? Your sport is in a losing battle with, city landowners. If you want people to keep playing the game and you want to keep being able to play the game, let young people play it in a way that they enjoy. That is, by the way, I got my oldest daughter swinging a golf club right now. Fun stuff as a dad. I heard Nate Bargatze on a podcast say that the women's golf is the least used scholarship in college athletics. And I was like, well, let's get a golf club in her hand right away. And we've been doing it. And she's been getting a lot better. I have no conflict. I liked the Randy Arozarena trade when it happened. I thought he was good as a Mariner last year. I thought he was good. I was happy with him before this stretch where he's been hitting out of his mind. I've had zero worry about his ability as a hitter, and I think he's been good. He's been good as a Mariner. A little worse defensively than I remember. The Fangraphs numbers are a little less ominous than the StatCast numbers, but 2.4 wins above replacement already this year. Last year as a Mariner, he was in only 54 games worth of full win above replacement. And he's, by the way, he's 30 years old. Is he actually 30 or is he in his age? No, he is 30. There's a difference between being 30 and in your age 30 season, but he's both. He's both 30 years old and in his age 30 season, and he is eligible to become a free agent after next year. The Mariners have one more year of control with Randy Arozarena, and I think they're going to have to ask themselves a question at the end of this or during this offseason, which is Randy Arozarena part of the midterm future of this franchise? Does he have a spot on this roster 2027 and beyond? And if not, if you think you can replace him with somebody in the organization, and they would know that better than me, I think you might consider trading him. I know that's sacrilegious, but sell high, buy low. Randy Arozarena was in the middle of kind of a down year when the Mariners traded for him, and they didn't trade a ton to get him. Less than I expected, by the way. Even with the down year, less than I expected. And I actually wanted to pull up before we got too crazy, Randy Arozarena trade. Let's see if we can pull it up on Baseball Reference quickly. But Arozarena, it's possible that his value has never been higher, even higher than when he was a year and a half younger. Soon to, when he was traded by the Rays to Seattle, he's a year and a half. He would be a year and a half younger than he was, than he would be in the offseason, at least in baseball years. I don't need to get into the imprecision of the whatever calendar we use. Is it the Roman calendar compared to the baseball calendar? But how are these guys doing that he got traded for? Let's see. Brody Hopkins. I remember Brody Hopkins being an unheralded prospect that deserved better. Brody Hopkins at 23 years old is still in Double-A for the Rays this year. He's pitching okay. He's averaging 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, but still 4.5 walks per 9 innings. And Aiden Smith. 20 years old, still an A-ball. He's got like a classic Mariners profile. Low batting average, high on base percentage, mediocre power as a 20-year-old A-ball. So the Mariners give up like two guys who probably would not have made major league contributions during Randy Arozarena's club control. We'll see what those guys do next year, but so I think you kind of, with a guy like Arozarena, if I'm the Mariners, I'm making a decision one way or the other. And maybe some of it has to do with if he actually is interested in being in Seattle, which I know at points in his career there's been legit concerns. He loved Tampa Bay. Who's his agent? He's a Boris client. You know what? Never mind. It's the question is, Scott Boras probably will not let. I wish that I did not have. I wish I could go back and change this. I should have looked this up in advance. Randy Arozarena, I looked this up. Market value according to SpotTrack is about $16 million a year. So, after his age 31 season, would you be happy with Randy Arozarena at 5 years, $80 million? That's a very likely bargain. I think you'd probably, if you're the team, you probably want less years. If you're a Arozarena, you probably want more years, of course. 5 years, $80 million. This Boris client, so probably not going to sign a pre-free agency extension. It's part of the reason why Cal, at least why I think it's believed that Cal was able to, or the Mariners were able to re-sign Cal Raleigh, which we're going to talk about it at some point. Not today because my wife is going to be home in like 2 minutes. I'd be happy with either of those things. If you sign a $16 million a year extension for 5 years or less, hopefully less, err on the side of less if you can as the Mariners, because it's a guy going into his mid-30s. That's scarier than it was in the steroids era. But would you rather have that, or would you rather have whatever you can recoup as trade bait, or as the bounty of a trade if you trade him in the offseason? I certainly don't think you're trading Randy Arozarena this year. I'm not suggesting that. And I'm not saying, by the way, that the organization is going to necessarily be in a better spot at the major league level offensively next year. Like there's not some obvious redundancy. The only obvious redundancy for Randy Arozarena is Victor Robles being healthy, Luke Raley potentially moving back to the outfield. Other than that, there's no. It's not like the cupboard is full and you can just throw these guys, throw these guys away. He's not disposable for the Mariners, but I think that at some point, and it's a function of how well he's been hitting, and if he continues to hit at this level, if he ends the year with a 130 plus WRC plus, first off, there's a decent chance the Mariners make the playoffs if that's the case. But even if not, it starts to get you down the road of like, is what you can get from Randy Arozarena in the future less valuable than what you can get for him in a trade right now? And if you can extend him, I want to know in the comments, by the way, if you made it this far, if you can extend him, what's the maximum annual salary in years you'd be willing to go? All right, I gotta go. Tend to my wife. Sounds significantly more erotic than it will be. It'll be me helping her unload the children from the car. Thank you all for listening to this. The few that have probably made it this far, come see me do stand-up comedy, Casey McLean Comedy, everywhere but Twitter, where I am the Casey McLean. CaseyMcLeanComedy.com. Watch my special, Do Not Shake. Thank you. Bye.